What's going on, YouTube? Thanks for tuning in to the Rolling Times. At the time of filming this, I think we were just under 1,500 subscribers. I think I'm 4 away from 1,500, so hopefully by the time this is uploaded, we surpass that. If we haven't, or if we have, go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you're not subscribed yet. We're trying to come out with content every week. We upload a video at 7, and then whenever I get to car shows or other things and I get a chance to film, I try and upload those videos as frequently as I can. So thank you guys for tuning in. I thank you for the 1,500 subscribers. And hopefully you guys learned something in this video. Today we're going to be doing a tune-up on this 2004 Passat 1.8T. We're going to be doing the spark plugs and the valve cover gasket. If you're doing a tune-up on these, it's a good time to do the valve cover gasket because you're basically halfway there, and vice versa. If your valve cover gasket's leaking, it's a good time to do the tune-up. So I'm gonna just do them combined in this video. Hopefully it helps you out. Now this car is a bit of a unicorn. It is a 4-motion, and it's also a manual. I believe there's about 1,500 of these with the manual transmission between 03 and 04. But if you have the front wheel drive version or the automatic version, this stuff is all going to be the same. We're going to go ahead and get started by removing our engine cover here. There's a couple Phillips screws. Move that out of the way. Set it to the side here. Next thing we're going to want to remove is the coil packs. You want to be careful with these connectors. They break pretty easy. If you do bust one, it's not the end of the world. But you heard that little click there. You just want to push back on these and then slide them off like that. I usually get them all disconnected. We have a 10mm bolt for their ground here, and then once we have them all disconnected, might have to pop this zip tie connector out of there, and then we can take the whole harness off. I find sometimes it helps push in on the connector while you're pulling back on the tab to help loosen it up. These ones are going to be a little stubborn if they've never been done before, but just be patient with them. And you'll get them off just like that. I'm just going to put that 10mm right back where I found it so we don't lose it. Oops. Alright, so they do make a pop tool. You can slide it under here. It'll help pop those plastic things out. As old as these cars are, sometimes they break. Like you saw here. These two broke at the tops, and then this one actually broke off inside. You go ahead and remove your coil packs. And if there's a bunch of oil on them, so it looks like it has a little bit of buildup and it's not wet, that's a good indication too that the valve cover is leaking. We're reusing these, so we're gonna keep them in order. right, next step, we have some hoses here that are attached. Those are 5 or 6 mil. I think they're a 5 mil Allen bolt. We'll have to remove those from the valve cover. We do have a hose that attaches here. That's just a regular hose clamp. Take that hose off. Once we do that, we'll have some 10 mil bolts. Pop the timing cover off here, the top half of it. That way we can get the valve cover up out of there. Alright guys, it's important on these Allen key bolts, make sure you have the Allen all the way inside of there, or they're pretty easy to round out. I believe there's a total of 4 on this side. This one's missing for me. Looks like somebody else was already in there. And this one here, somebody else already rounded out. So if you have one that's rounded out, if it's not rounded out too bad, the first thing I try and do is take the hammer, seat that Allen down in there. It grabbed pretty good, so I think we'll get it here. Just barely, it started slipping there, but we got it. If that doesn't work, you can take a 12-point socket that's almost the same size as the head of this bolt, maybe like a 10 or 11 mil 12-point, and you can smash it down with a hammer around the outside. It'll grab it just like a turbo socket would. Alright, so I'm struggling with this hose. There's not much give in it. What I'm going to do is loosen up the valve cover, and then once I move the valve cover, should be able to clamp that with the channel locks and then pull the valve cover out of there. I don't want to fight with it too much because I don't want to break it, and it doesn't have much flex to it anymore. You got this smaller hose down here with a small hose clamp. You can just wiggle that hose clamp off and then take the channel locks, and you don't want to grab too hard, but just enough you get a little grip on the hose and just kind of twist it and work it off there. I've learned with this stuff not to be scared of it, because if just twisting a little bit with the pliers rips it or cracks it, it probably needs to be replaced anyway. Got another 5 mil Allen we missed back here. Pop that guy out quick. Alright, then we got a 10 mil, 10 mil, 10 mil, 10 mil, 10 mil, 10 mil, 10 mil. It looks like a total of 9 10 mil bolts or nuts. We're going to use a deep 10 mil socket for those. The valve cover is most likely going to be pretty stuck to the head, so what I do is just take a flathead and just pry a little bit. And you can see now once it's separated, you should have no problem pulling it out. So I thought we were going to be able to sneak it out of there. We actually have to take off this valve here, and then these 2 lines we got to disconnect. Somebody was already in here, so they don't have the factory clamps on. If you guys still have the factory clamps, just cut them off and then replace them with regular hose clamps. An 8mm bolt and an 8mm bolt holding this heat shield to these lines here. I loosened up these hose clamps. This line seems to be loose. This smaller one seems to be what's holding us up. So I'm just going to get a pick tool in there and see if I can separate that hose from the metal hard line without ripping it. Pick tool worked like a charm. We got our lines off. beware, you might want to cut this clamp and pull this bigger hose off before you do this. This one was already broke, so we actually already have the part to replace it here, but if yours is not broke, you may want to disconnect it first. See if we have a part number here for you. We got this from Rock Auto. Breather hose ABV0223, replaces part number 0581333786B. Oh, no, that's a 5. 85B. It looks like a 6 on the GoPro, but that's a 5. So this rear hose is pretty much what ended up fighting me then. Once I got that off, the valve cover lifts right off. If you want, now's a good time to polish it up or paint it. But obviously you would have to have paint ready, and then you'd be waiting a little bit to put it back on. If you're not worried about it looking good, or you have a nice fancy engine cover that most of you don't have, then the only thing you really got to worry about cleaning up is this mating surface here for the gasket, which whoever had it off last used a gasket. They didn't use RTV, so pretty much just got to wipe it down. But if you have any RTV on yours, you want to make sure you clean all that off. Now that we have the valve cover off, we're going to want to remove this gasket, any gasket that's still stuck to the head, and it is pretty crispy, so it was definitely time to change it. We can also take a look at some important engine parts while we're in here. We can check out the cam lobes, see if there's any abnormal scoring or damage to them. We can get a general idea of how well the motor is taken care of just by seeing how much buildup and sludge is in the top of the head. There's a little bit of buildup, but nothing I wouldn't expect for a 180,000 mile motor. Other important thing to look at while you're in here is your cam chain. On these 1.8Ts, a lot of times they don't get replaced because people just do the timing belt and totally ignore the chain. Also on these cars, they're towards the back, so they're a little bit more difficult to change, but the guide looks good. Nothing broken, no crazy wear. It's hard to say whether it was replaced or not when the timing was done, but it looks in good condition, and we don't have any slack in the chain. So might actually get this thing off of here all in one piece.
Pretty sure the maintenance was done on the thing pretty good by the book, other than when Rob had it.
Alright, there's your gasket. You should notice near the front and the back, your cam caps here in the front, and in the back here, a little bit of RTV. I don't know if you guys can really see that. Right here, you want RTV. Right here, right here, and right here. Just put a little dab of RTV before you put your new gaskets on. That's just because there's a seam here where the cam caps come together. If you don't RTV that, it can leak. So our install is just opposite of how we took it apart. One thing to pay attention to, the torque spec for these valve cover nuts is 7 foot-pounds. That's not a whole lot of torque. If you guys don't work on cars every day and you're not familiar with torque specs and stuff, I would highly recommend either buying or borrowing a torque wrench and torquing these to 7 foot-pounds. It's really easy with valve cover gaskets to over torque them, and then they'll be leaking just like they were before. So use your own judgment there. Now that we have the valve cover torqued, we're going to replace the spark plugs. Still have everything out of our way, so it's going to be nice and easy to do those. Just a regular 5/8 spark plug socket. Plug doesn't look too bad. I've definitely seen worse ones, but I don't think a tune-up's going to hurt anything. Cylinder 2. It's like a little bit of white deposits on there. Again, not too bad. Cylinder 3, looking about the same. Cylinder 4, they all look pretty even. So we got our new iridium plug here. These are pre-gapped. You don't want to have to gap them. If the gap does look off, I would just take it back to the store and swap it out for one that's not fucked up. We're going to go ahead and start it by hand. What I like to do is get them all threaded in by hand and then go back and tighten them with the ratchet. Alright, and with these you kind of just tighten them until they stop. You should be able to get a distinct feel of, like right there it stopped, maybe a quarter turn, not even, eighth turn. You do want to make sure these are tight. I've seen plenty of people do their own tune-ups and they're scared of tightening down the spark plugs and then they're loose and they blow out and ruin the threads in the head, or maybe just have low compression and they don't run quite right. But the other thing is you don't need a freaking breaker bar to tighten these down because you're putting a steel spark plug into an aluminum head. So there's probably a torque spec for them. If you're worried about it, I'd suggest torquing them. Alright guys, the rest is pretty much self-explanatory. It's getting late. It's hot and humid in this garage, so I'm just going to try and get everything wrapped up quick. If you have any questions, let me know down in the comments below. I'll try and help you out best I can. I try and stay pretty active on YouTube and read all the comments and try and reply to everyone. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If it helped you out, please give us a like. And we just want to thank ABW Auto Glass for sponsoring the YouTube channel. He helped us out with a windshield in the W8, so we're returning the favor by giving him some free advertising on the channel. If you guys are in the Lancaster, Reading, Lebanon area, please give him a call if you need any windshield glass, any auto glass in general. He's the man.